Hi everybody, it's Julia, your trusted travel expert, helping you find the je ne sais quoi wherever you are in the world. And one of the ways that you can feel free to explore and have a little bit of assurance is to have a good travel insurance policy in place before you travel. Now, with the coronavirus, that's a big speed bump, I would say, that we have all had to learn a lot more of the nuances of travel insurance. And so I wanted to fill you on some of those and talk to you about why travel insurance is important both in pre-trip and during your trip, and then give you some of the details or caveats or things that you should know when evaluating your policy. So the first thing to know is we have unfortunately learned that epidemics, in this case the coronavirus epidemic, is not a covered reason for cancellation. Travel insurance covers facts, not fears. That's what some people like to say. Even as crazy as this sounds, even if a country's borders are closed or your government is telling you not to travel, travel insurance does not have that as a covered reason for cancellation. In other words, if the flights are going and there's a hotel that you can stay at, travel insurance wants you to go. Now, if a country closes its borders, probably the airlines are going to cancel their flights and all that. So, then that comes into play. But for right now, epidemics are not a covered reason for cancellation. So what does that leave you? I know for a lot of people that makes them say, well, why should I even get travel insurance? And there are a lot of good reasons. There are a lot of good ways travel insurance can help you both before you travel and while you're traveling that I want to outline. So for pre-travel worries, what travel insurance is really good for is protecting the investment of those non-refundable costs that you have invested into your travel, right? You need to go ahead and purchase a policy to have these benefits for pre-travel. You need to go ahead and purchase a policy as soon, in a timely fashion after you put down the first non-refundable monies. So either when you buy your flight or when you first put down non-refundable deposits on a tour package or something like that. And the reason you want to do that is because during the pre-travel period, insurance covers you for for lots of reasons for cancellation. If you have an illness, an unforeseen illness, or an accident, or something happens with your work situation, there's all kinds of covered reasons where you can cancel your trip and get the insurance will help you recoup all your non-refundable costs that you've put down so far. Now, when I said unforeseen illness, there's something called Preexisting conditions and a waiver that if you buy your insurance within 2 weeks or sometimes even 21 days from that point where you first put the money down, then the waiver allows you to cancel in case a pre-existing condition flares back up. So what this means is that let's say that you had breast cancer and last year, and you did all your treatments and you're cancer free, hooray! And so now you and your family want to take a trip, and so you book the trip. It's 6 months from now, everything's good. And unfortunately, a month before your trip, you go in for a regular checkup and something has flared up. Something with your cancer has flared up again, and you need to go back into treatment. That's obviously terrible, but if you had not purchased your travel insurance in a timely manner, that would count as a pre-existing condition. Now, if you bought it within those first 2 weeks or 21 days for one company, then you could cancel and get all your money back because of that pre-existing condition. There are all kinds of nuances around that. And so I obviously want you to, if you have specific questions, talk to an actual insurance agent to understand how your pre-existing condition would work in that case. But that's why it's so important to think about travel insurance right when you put your first money down. Now, the other really, really, really valuable thing about travel insurance is how much it can help you during your trip. And that's really the place where it shines. It's the pre-trip stuff and the coronavirus stuff is giving travel insurance a bit of a bad taste, or it kind of is a bitter pill to swallow. But let me tell you, the during travel benefits that you can get from travel insurance are worth it, even without any of the cancellation things. So during a trip, if your flight gets canceled or your flight gets delayed, or you miss a connection, or your bags get delayed, anything like that, and you have to spend the night in the airport, or you have to buy new clothes, or anything like that. Those kinds of things happen all the time. And that is where travel insurance can recoup your money. They can, they have daily allowances for travel delay, for baggage delay, trip interruption, all that good stuff. On the other side of the coin, it gives you medical coverage abroad. Internationally, most U.S. healthcare plans will not cover medical treatment internationally. And so that's where travel insurance comes in. So anything from you slip and you fall and you break your kneecap and have to fly home in the middle of your trip, happened to a client of mine, to you come down. I know somebody that had appendicitis when she was on a trip. Crazy things. I know somebody who broke her back on a trip. Luckily, she's fine, but, she was just jumping off of a rock. She was, in her 20s, and landed funny and broke her back. All of those instances, travel insurance would step in, help you find a doctor at a reputable hospital. If you need translation services, they provide that. They would pay for all of your upfront treatment issues. If you had to be evacuated, they help you get that organized, pay for all of that. I mean, there are some evacuation situations that are a nightmare where, the hospital or the medevac flight or something like that, it's $50,000 treatment and they want you to pay that up front. Well, I don't know many people that have $50,000 limits on their credit cards. So it's those sorts of things where travel insurance really, really comes into play. The other thing that nobody really thinks about or talks about is they have most companies have a 24-hour concierge and travel assistance hotline. So no matter where you are in the world, if you need anything from dinner reservations to help, this is going on in this country and I need to get out, that is what that number is for. And so those during travel benefits are super, super important for travel insurance. Now, another nuance to those sort of pre-trip benefits that I was talking about is there are lots of policies called cancel for any reason or cancel anytime or something like that, where it's a premium product. So it's the normal the normal policies or the classic version or the gold, standard versions of policies allow you to cancel for lots of reasons, but you can add an additional or upgrade the policy, I guess, to their highest level to cancel for any reason up to 48 hours or a day or so before you leave. So, if your dog gets sick or your hair, you don't like your hair, you had a bad hair day, or, those are sort of the typical ridiculous reasons that you would want to cancel your trip for, that cancel for any reason would cover. Now, in light of what's going on and all of the claims that they're having quadruple rates of people buying this kind of policy and actually using it. So those are going away. I know of 2 major travel insurance providers at a minimum that have already dropped that. Another one that I work with a lot has very much changed the terms of their policy. But there are still instances where you can get cancel for any reason coverage. It may only get you 75% of the money you invested back. And there are lots of stipulations. This is another one where you have to have the travel insurance policy in place 14 to 21 days after you put your first money down. But they do still exist. So, and as long as you don't say that coronavirus is the reason, apparently you can, just say that you don't feel comfortable, and that is the any reason that will work. So that is still an option, although we'll see for how long. Now, some people often ask me about, there's a travel insurance or a trip protection or something, with this tour or this cruise that I'm booking. Should I get that or should I get third party? I generally recommend third party because they're usually more comprehensive. A lot of times and this isn't always, but a lot of times the tour operator or cruise insurance package is really just a cancellation package, and it's really just making sure you have a credit with that same operator for a future travel date. So they're not always as good as the third party options. But I will say that in certain cases, if you're elderly, 75 plus, the price for the insurance can be a lot more beneficial with one of those, with the tour operator that you're traveling with or the cruise line that you're traveling with. Sometimes the policies are much more reasonable for someone. I had some 90-year-olds travel one time, and their third party, which they did go with because they wanted the extra really good comprehensive coverage, but I mean, it was pricey. Because fortunately, as we have now known, 60 plus is risky. So the last thing that has come up a lot in this coronavirus epidemic situation is the issue of supplier default. So if somebody goes out of business that you're planning on traveling with, this has already sort of come up in the last couple of years. There have been some fairly high profile companies going out of business, the biggest being Thomas Cook over in England. Every travel insurer, every company handles it a little bit differently. One company has a specific list that they cover of like, it's a big list of suppliers that they think are not going to go out of business, so they cover them if they do crazily go out of business. But generally, again, if you have the policy in place right after you book the trip, and if the bankruptcy or the shutting down of the company happens long enough, like more than a week or 2 weeks after you bought the policy, then you will get your money back for the supplier going out of business. And that's another reason why third party can be better than booking it through the tour operator or cruise line, because if the tour operator or cruise line goes out of business and you had your insurance through them, you might be out of luck. But I don't like to dwell on that because that happens so rarely, and it's usually a freak occurrence. And I will say that credit card insurance, this is sort of fourth option, credit cards often help out sometimes when travel insurance doesn't with a supplier default. I will say, though, that credit card coverage, while it might sound really good, it is often not quite as good as a third-party insurer, because a lot of times you have to pay everything up front with a credit card and then claim the reimbursement, and they may or may not get that back to you. Whereas with a third-party travel insurance policy, usually your upfront costs they cover rather than you having to pay it out of pocket. So that was a lot of information. I hope it was clear and helpful. Just remember that while travel insurance doesn't cover everything in every situation, it does cover the vast majority of crazy, weird travel mishaps that can happen. And so I do still totally recommend looking at a third-party independent travel insurance policy right when you put deposit down on a trip. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm here for you. I will talk to you later. Bye.